Hello and welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am your guide, Elpy, and this is mixed worm bin number 1. Today is the 11th of January 2025. Last time we were in this bin was 5 days ago on the 6th of January. And this is part of the Time for Pie series. So the 6th was the 15th, so it has been 20 days. Has it been 20 days? Yeah, wow. It's been 20 days since we fed the pumpkin pie plus rotten vegetables. Okay, as per usual, on the bubble mailer that they've only had for a few weeks, we find blue worms. Are they all blue worms? Are you guys blue worms? I don't think you guys are blue worms. Maybe. Okay, all right, so now part of what's going on with this bin, and I probably did say that this time around I'm going to be adding a divider. I'm pretty sure I did say that. Oh no, this is the bin. This is the feeding zone. And it is under 60. It's like 58, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like 14 or 15 degrees Celsius, I believe. Cooler than I would expect. But we see there are worms on top because of the bubble mailer being here. So what I said I'm going to start doing is that I'm going to start trying to kind of congregate, if you will, the bigger pieces of unfinished material. And I think I said that I'm going to do a feeding in a week. Well, it's been 5 days, so I'm not going to do a feeding today, but maybe in the next couple of days. All right, now what we were doing before, and you know what, I'll still do it, was I've also been checking in on the previous feeding zone because there was a lot of action occurring over here. Even when the food was gone, long gone, there's obviously still residue left over from the food, and it was warm over here, and there's rotting garlic. I don't feel any warmth. Feels like there's obviously I haven't watched my video in a minute. I think there's a paper bag over here, which means, yep, I've discovered moisture to the degree that it's become wet, and I didn't like the level to, yeah, so see, you see that there's a lot of this bag that's still dry, because I really did just shove it in there, but it's wet. And so they did get a bunch of peppers with the Time for Pie feeding. And obviously that has contributed significantly to the moisture. And there's some sulfur stink over here and some worms, but not in the huge amounts that we were seeing before. So I'm just gonna, oops, sorry about that. I'm just putting the bag right back down in there. And probably some more of the paper. I don't want to just put the wet stuff that came right up from the bottom. I don't want to put that. I'd rather grab stuff from around the area was more on top. Now we'll put the wet stuff. Okay. Now let's go to the main feeding zone. And like I said, I think I'll just start probably no, we aren't going to do the divider thing yet, but I am going to just kind of try to pay more attention to the things that aren't broken down and start using undigested, intact material in the feeding zones instead of adding new paper. I'll probably still add a little bit of new bedding, as we call it in the worm industry, carbon, but I will, there's a cocoon. I think I'm going to try to stick to the stuff that's already in here. All right, let's get to the gist of it right away. And it is a little bit warmer. Oh yeah. And they're good, a nice plump size. I'm happy to see that. So seeing as before, what was really cool was that there would be a ton of worms over there, as well as a lot of worms over here. But now there's only one feeding zone that's really doing its thing. And so this is where everyone wants to be. So I think I'm going to start making, and the last series, the 15-day check-ins, which are all up as I record this. I disrupted these time for pie feeding zones heavily. So just FYI, I've been disrupting them and digging in, but this last time I really kind of turned things over. Okay, there's another cocoon. I saw another one, but decided not to point it out. It was a more translucent one, which I do believe is what they look like when it has essentially hatched. So this does have me wondering if... Okay, so there's our pie. And the worms are around it. So 20 days later, this pumpkin pie from a bakery is almost gone. There are baby worms and bigger worms. This worm is in the pie. It's finally almost gone. And we see that there's a nice little conglomerate of worms hanging out there. Let's just go ahead and scoop this up. A little bit of stink. Rotting food stink. But you just keep digging and you just keep finding worms. So I think what we're gonna do moisture over here is not a problem. But what I'm going to do is, well, today we're just doing this check-in. We're just looking at where things are at. Yeah, see there? Here's remnants of a pepper. But for the most part, there's no... This is basically a root ball from a shungiku plant. Lots of worms, but there's really no food. Well, I mean, they got stuff to eat, but you know. Okay, here's a persimmon. So, in the way I do things, they're ready for a feeding. But seeing as looking at this bin, I kind of want them to work on what's here. What's happening. Let's put the pie. What's going on in the bin and what there is to eat here. And focus on breaking stuff down. So what's going to happen is I'm not going to feed them anything today, like I said, but in 3 or 4 days, they're going to get a feeding, and that feeding is going to have, probably actually feed it in the middle. That feeding, I'm going to intentionally use material that's in the bin. I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick out all these pieces of paper like this. I'm going to pick out that plant matter. This cork's not going anywhere for a very long time, probably years. All this stuff. And we're going to, I'm not going to worry about migration or anything like that because we're a long ways from that. But I do just want to kind of start directing how things are going. So that's my plan for next time. This was a good check-in. Nothing crazy and exciting like it has been. But, I mean, it's exciting to see how many worms there are. And if I did a full-on stir through the bin, there are worms throughout the whole bin, no doubt. Unlike with smaller populations where we might find that the worms are all in just one area. Even sometimes with my bigger populations, it's occurred in this bin before, and in bin number 2, I've come in here and been a little bit alarmed because I've found that there's no worms in the area where the castings, like especially when I'm preparing for harvest, but it's not quite harvest ready. I just totally dirtied the wall because there's still mosquitoes hatching from something that I brought inside. But yeah, so there's, so at times I've been like, man, where are all the worms? And we're not seeing that in this bin right now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, the next check-in, the Time for Pie series is going to continue as long as this feeding is still there, which it is almost gone. That pie might well be gone in 3 or 4 days, so that might conclude the Time for Pie series. And maybe I'll start a new series. Maybe I'll just keep feeding everybody. I think we'll probably be moving into a place where like each bin is about to receive kind of their own treatment given the stages that they're in. So yeah, this bin, I'm going to start making a point of using the material that's already in here in the feeding zones and trying to just get what's already in here broken down. Okay, well, that was it. Excellent. Very cool. 20 days in, so almost 3 weeks in, and the pumpkin pie is still there. Now, we could say, wow, so it takes 3 weeks plus for a piece of pumpkin pie to break down. But that's not accurate because, 1, there would need to be only pumpkin pie in the bin in order to say that. And 2, that you couldn't, it's a tough sell when there's still food in that corner like there was. So it's not an accurate depiction of how long it takes for pumpkin pie to break down, but it is an interesting experiment. All right, thank you so much for your time and your interest. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you could please hit the thumbs up. And if you'd like to get notifications and follow along on my worm journeys, I currently have 5 bins, and stay tuned because there's a reason I say currently have. My 5th bin is a blue worm bin, and it is almost 4 months old. Yeah, I started it in November. Yeah, almost 4 months old. I started with 67 blue worms. It is a pretty cool little bin. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button. It's free. And the notification bell if you would like to follow along with me with my worms. And I also have some gardening and indoor gardening to do. Thank you so much for your time and your interest. Be safe, be well. Bye for now.